Hello and welcome to my watch list for Game Week 5. Starting off with the defenders, we have Chilwell and Trippier in top spot. These are attacking defenders that have some good clean sheet potential in the next four. Trippier is an incredible long-term option, and Chilwell, well, he's playing left wing, so I wouldn't worry too much about him. He did get a small downgrade because he's used up some of his good fixtures, but for the next four, the games are still nice. Trippier, brilliant option. Diaz gets a small downgrade because, well, again, he's used up some of his good fixtures. And yeah, of course, for the next three, he is incredible. But for defenders, we are really looking at a longer time period since you don't want to be making transfers and switching your defenders all that often in this game. Trent reminded us of what he can do against Aston Villa. However, the fixtures are difficult. White, I would prefer Saliba, Zinchenko. Estupinian, again, only one good fixture in the next sort of 5-6 game weeks, and that is Bournemouth at home in game week 6. So if you have him, I would definitely think about keeping him and playing him in game week 6, but in the long term, not a good option. Guardiol and Walker, I think Guardiol is safer now because Ake has picked up an injury during the international break, and Walker has been playing every game so far, if I'm not mistaken. So for the next 3 game weeks, I would definitely keep them. However, they of course get a downgrade as well for the same arguments I made as I did when I talked about Ruben Diaz. Share would be a brilliant option if not for the price, because I prefer Botman and Burn at 4.5, and if you want to spend more for someone with attacking potential, you get Trippier, of course. However, still a good option to consider. Saliba and Zinchenko, some mixed fixtures, but if you do find a nice rotation, for example, to cover game week 6, to cover game week 8, to cover game week 9, etc., they are definitely still one of the better defenses in the league. Gabriel, too many question marks. Martinez, injury prone it seems, and gets a lot of yellow cards. 0 attacking threat. United defense looks shaky. So even though the fixtures are nice, there's a lot of question marks regarding Martinez. Botman and Burn. Now, I've put an asterisk next to Botman because if we do get news that he is fit, he automatically becomes the best option out of all the defenders, in my opinion, because he is 100% nailed, playing for one of the best defenses that has Brentford, Sheffield, Burnley, West Ham, Palace, Wolves in the next 6 game weeks. So Newcastle defenders are definitely a priority, and if you don't want a Newcastle defender, then I would seriously consider someone like Destiny, because against Sheffield United at home, he could get a massive haul there. Yes, the fixtures are mixed, but if, for example, you have someone like Pinnock, who in game week 6 has Everton, in game week 7 has Forest, and then you can play Destiny in game week 8. So the thing about defenders is, since there are not a lot of standouts like the previous years when we had Trent and Liverpool just being amazing, both from an attacking and a defensive point of view, we also had the likes of Marcus Alonso, we had Cancelo. You really want to get some of these cheap defenders and just rotate them based on the fixtures. So for example, Destiny and Cash are defenders who have some great attacking threat, but some not so great fixtures in the next 4 or 5 game weeks. However, as I said, if you can rotate them with someone like a Henry, someone like a Pinnock, a Guay, an Anderson, they become much better options. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the defenders. Oh, and just to mention the Kabore and Bell, and of course Bayer double game weeks in game week 7. It's not a great double, to be honest, for either of these sides, because I just don't trust Luton or Burnley when it comes to defensive returns. So if you want to go for someone for these teams for the double game week, I would go for the attackers. And if you have them already, that's great. You just play them in the double, no worries there, but I wouldn't be spending a transfer to get Luton or Burnley defenders in my opinion. And yeah, that's it for the defenders. Moving on to the midfielders, we have first up Mo Salah, still a good option. The fixtures are incredible in the next sort of 8 9, 10 game weeks even. So if you want to go for Mo Salah for the long term, for example, if you are on wildcard currently, I think there are worse options, but me personally, I wouldn't go for him just yet. I would go for him in game week 9. Because as you can see, game weeks 9, 10, and 11, he plays Everton, Forest, and Luton. Some absolutely incredible games for the Egyptian king. But currently just costs a bit too much for my taste. KDB unfortunately still out, yeah. Saka in the 7.7 to 9.1 million bracket still reigns supreme in my opinion as the standout option, especially with Everton, Spurs, and Bournemouth in the next 3. He could score a lot of goals there. Maddison still a brilliant option, even though he has the Arsenal and Liverpool game. Then, however, he has Luton and Fulham, so great option as well. Rashford and Bruno. I wouldn't worry too much about United, to be honest. The fixtures are looking good. The 3 of the next 4 games are at home, and they have Sheffield United and Burnley away. So the fixture run for the next 5 is pretty good. And I have no doubt that United will score a lot of goals. Yes, there has been some issues at the club and things aren't looking great for them. However, purely from an FPL point of view, Rashford and Bruno are still good. Foden, I do have some small doubts about Foden. I was thinking about downgrading him this week. However, as the fixtures are so nice in the next 3, I am still keeping him in this bracket. But if he does play on the left wing, if Jack Grealish is still injured, I think that hurts his potential a lot, because if he doesn't play in between the lines in that sort of 10 or attacking midfielder position, or on the right where he can cut inside and shoot on goal, I just don't like him that much as an option. But yeah, so far he's okay, but we'll have to wait and see and reassess after the West Ham game. Now, Heung-min Son is a new addition and a potential captaincy option for this game week. There are some doubts, however, because he might not even play striker. Due to the nature of the game, since Sheffield United are, they're likely going to park the bus. So he might not be able to use his pace like he did against Burnley, because we know he loves high lines and balls over the top and in behind the defense. And he might not be able to do that against Sheffield. So that begs the question, will Richarlison, for example, start against Sheffield as a more physical presence in that box that is likely going to be packed with Sheffield defenders? Perhaps. I think not, simply because of Richarlison's recent comments and his sort of mental health issues. I think he will be on the bench for a few game weeks, just for him to figure some stuff out and give him a bit of breathing room and a bit of space without all the criticism and everything that's been going around. So I think he will play. However, he won't be as good as he was against Burnley, even though Sheffield on paper at home is an even better fixture. I think they're going to park the bus, so I don't expect Son to get a massive haul. He still might get a goal. He still might get a goal and an assist. Look, it's still Sheffield United. And it's a very tempting game to captain someone like Son. However, there are some doubts. So it's a risk, but if we had a guarantee that Son was going to be starting striker for Spurs for the rest of the season and would be on penalties, he would be in the same bracket as Maddison and Saka. I would definitely back myself on that, because we know he's a brilliant player. However, Son as a striker and Son on the left are 2 entirely different fantasy assets. So it's a risk, but if he does start up front for the next few game weeks, he could have an absolute field day. And yeah, that's it for the analysis on Heung-min Son. Martinelli and Odegaard, I'm not convinced. Odegaard, incredibly disappointing stats so far this season, and Martinelli has also been pretty disappointing just from the eye test. so far. However, if you have them, I will definitely keep them for the next 3 game weeks at least. Luis Diaz, unfortunately, the same problem still remains. There's just a lot of options that Liverpool have in attack. Brian Mbomo still remains one of the best options in this 5.5 to 7.2 million bracket, simply because he's their talisman and still has some nice games like Everton, Forest, and Burnley in the next 5. Sterling, still okay, still a good option in my opinion. Should have had an assist in the Forest game, and the fixtures are still nice, so no reason to panic. Diaby, I think he has a good fixture run for the next 8 game weeks or something absurd like that. So definitely an option to consider. If you are on a wild card, I would be looking to bring in Moussa Diaby for sure. The fixtures are mixed, but he is just such a good player that in the games, for example, against Fulham at home in game week 6 and Forest at home in game week 8, he could more than make up for the potential blanks against United and Villa in game weeks 5 and 7. However, he can even get some returns in those games. He's just been excellent so far this season, and to see his price at 6.3 million is a joke, to be honest. He's excellent value for that price. Mitoma in March, some difficult fixtures in the next 5, but Brighton can score against anyone, so I would be in no rush to get them out. If you, however, do have 2 free transfers, I would be looking at some of the other options in this price bracket. Andreas Pereira is a differential for this game week. Luton at home, good fixture. He's on penalties. However, his underlying stats this season have been absolutely horrendous. And I don't really rate Fulham as much this season. So it's a punt. It's very risky, and I just don't feel the reward is there when talking about Andreas Pereira. Gordon, my pick from the Newcastle midfielders. We've already talked about how good their fixtures are, and I prefer him to the likes of Tonali, Almiron, and Harvey Barnes, simply because I think he will play the most minutes. I'm not sure about it, but I think he can cover the left and the right side, so I think that versatility bodes well for him, at least from a minutes point of view. But again, a very risky option when we have such amazing options at a similar price like Eze and Diaby. Bowen, the next 2 are awful. Richarlison, unfortunately not an option to consider at this point in time, since the other Spurs options look better. Enzo, the games are still good, however, still not an option to consider. Same with Sar, and Nakamba at 4.4 million is a good cheap enabler for your team. If you are playing with only 4 playing midfielders, I would definitely not play someone like Nakamba, of course. So that's it for the midfielders. And rounding off the watch list with the forwards, Haaland, of course, reigns supreme. Not much needs to be said there. Jackson, I would keep the faith because the fixtures are just so good. And he's getting in the right positions. He just, might turn out to be another Werner or another Darwin Nunez, but I am willing to be patient when a player shows up with such amazing underlying statistics. His expected goals are great, so no reason to get rid of him, in my opinion. Isak, the problem still remains. Wilson is there. The fixtures are great, so even with his reduced minutes, he might get a lot of points in the next sort of 6-7 game weeks. However, I wouldn't personally go there because there are better options in midfield at a similar price point. And with Champions League around the corner, you'd think he maybe misses 1 or 2 games, and that's not great. Watkins, on the other hand, Watkins is a player that's nailed and will play about 80-90 minutes every game. However, he's never been the most clinical finisher. The fixtures are great for the next 8 game weeks, for example, but I'm just not too high on Watkins. I prefer Diaby because he's cheaper, he's a better player in my opinion from an FPL point of view in comparison to Watkins. Gabriel Jesus next up seems to be back. I have no doubt that he will slot straight back into the starting 11 for Arsenal. Some concerns regarding his fitness and his match sharpness, but the next three are good. So if you want to take a punt on Jesus, it's not an issue with me. Darwin, as I've said about Luis Diaz already, unfortunately the rotation with Liverpool forwards is going to persist, in my opinion, throughout the season. But the fixtures are so good. They are really great in the next 8. So if you want to take a punt on Darwin, I have... there's worse things than to take a punt on a Liverpool player with the next 8 games being as good as they are. So yeah, an okay option. Højlund, I think, will start against Brighton, and I think he will keep that starting striker spot because Martial is absolute rubbish and Rashford sucks as a striker. He's much better on the left. So with the fixtures in the next 5 being as good as they are, again, Højlund is a decent punt. But all of these strikers have some sort of question marks. Isak has the minutes and the rotation with Wilson. Watkins isn't the typical FPL player that's, for example, like Haaland, constantly in the box looking to score. He's more of a player who helps his team out, so that is not good from an FPL point of view. Also, he is the most expensive out of all these players. Jesus, again, next 3 are great, but then he plays City and Chelsea, so might play reduced minutes because he's just coming back from an injury. Question marks, again, about him as well. Darwin, rotation problems. And Højlund, new to the league. United having some issues at the club. So, yeah. There's risks involved with all of these players, but any one of them could be a great option in the next few weeks. Alvarez, in my opinion, he is the second best City asset at the moment because, yeah, he's a striker playing for City and he's playing 90 minutes every game. Might miss out on the West Ham game with Champions League coming up and with him having to make quite a long trip from South America back to London, I presume. So yeah, maybe not the best option to get in now, but then in game weeks 6 and 7, if we still see him starting, or of course if you get some early team news that he will be starting against West Ham, a brilliant option in my opinion. Visa gets a small downgrade. He's used up some of his good fixtures, so he naturally drops down the rankings. Morris is a massive jump on the watch list purely because of the double game week, of course, because it's a guaranteed +2 points at least. And of course a guarantee 90 minutes of football as well, and you never know because the double game week is so nice with Everton and Burnley. He might nick a goal in both the games and he turns out to be a brilliant option. However, he still plays for Luton, so I wouldn't go out of my way to get Morris in my team. But Fulham, Wolves and then a double, there are worse things than to punt on a Morris right now. Ferguson looks to be injured, unfortunately, at the moment. We'll have to wait and see. Solanke, tough fixtures. Pedro, rotation risk. Awani, again, not the greatest fixtures. Edward, mixed fixtures. And Mateta's maybe going to steal a few minutes off of him in the near future if he isn't already. I think he's gotten a few 60-70 minutes substitutions. Amdouni and Foster also have a double game week, but the main difference is, of course, the fixtures next to the double game week. Because Burnley play United at home and then they have Chelsea at home. Whereas Morris has, okay, Spurs at home is not the greatest fixture, but Wolves at home and Fulham away in game week 5, much better than Morris having United. And then, of course, the double is also much better. Morris plays Newcastle away. So, yeah, I would prefer Morris, but in a few weeks, if Burnley look like a competent attack and they improve from an overall team point of view with their chemistry and their overall play, they might be good options. Antonio, awful fixtures, and Nketiah loses his place soon. Jimenez scored like 2 goals in the last 2 years, so I'm not interested there. Archer, the standout option in the 4.5 million bracket. Semenyo might lose his place with Sinistera coming in. And Osula, of course, losing his place with Archer coming in. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my watch list. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice game week. And yeah, bye.